Look, the sign is appropriate. Thank you to Vanessa for her tip to color the back. And as you can see, it is not completely colored because I had enough time to color it, but I did not budget in time to untangle my headset. So that took about 2.5 minutes, which if I had finished, I think 2.5 minutes of time to finish coloring this. And I didn't have that 2.5 minutes. Hello!
Oh, I look a little creepy because I have my thing here. It's lit up.
Well, the weather's right for creepy because it's raining.
It's pouring. The rain is like blowing into onto my window. So if you hear like crazy sounds, that's what's happening.
It's very exciting. I'm like always thrilled when it rains here in Southern or Central or Northern California at this point. Really, we all need it. So it's good to see you and to meet you in this way. Um, is there anything that you would like to say before you read your poem, or do you just want to get into it and then we can talk
Uh,
after?
let's just do the thing.
Sounds good.
Okay, cool. I am from freshly inked paper, from acrylic coated canvas and natural bristle brushes, Loudon guitars, and Audix microphones. I am from skylights flooding into stained glass, dappling floors and walls with manipulated light, refined and separated, only to pool onto quilts in chaos. I am from rotting leaves, mingled with slender needles, red with rust, returning to the earth with every underfoot crunch of cool autumn. I'm from chapters after Advent dinners and dark waves, from Sharp and Stewart, China settings and day trip adventures, from we need you to do this and we expect better. I'm from early mornings, revering dioceses, supporting thrones where dark robes held books heavier than the paper they bind, edified by thundering organs playing century-old melodies. I'm from the birthplace of a nation, a line walked between Gaul and Taiga, taking pride in savory sauces that elevate every entree, followed by such addictive desserts guests wrap more in napkins for the ride home. I am from a great-grandmother singing to peeps all night in a rocking chair, and another chasing bitterness with southern comfort in a land of black and gold. Our captured moments lay scattered in albums in a crawl space, plastic totes collecting dust, SD cards and laptop memories of people we once were. Volumes upon volumes of my hand-scripted narration tells a story otherwise shrouded. I could pretend it was something else, but I won't.
Thank you, Alexis. I
Thanks.
felt like that last line sort of spoke to the heart of so much of writing memoir or writing about our lives. It's something I'm dealing with where you could just go along with the story as it's been told, or you could tell your own version of the events. I don't know if that's what the reference was or if it's just the general way you live your
Well,
life.
so I think that yeah, there's this thing about the stories that we tell ourselves, and there's also I would say there's an epidemic of a lack of self-awareness and just like being comfortable with owning the difficult stuff, and instead of like owning it, running away from it or like sugarcoating it or whatever it is. Um, and I think it's important and good to face the hard stuff. And that's what makes us who we are, and that's how we shape ourselves and move through the world. So, we're not defined by the soft moments, we're defined by the hard ones. So
I guess that's probably true. I've spent a lot
certainly
of,
true for me, girl.
I think I've spent a little bit of time resenting that fact, like, I'd like to be
Oh
defined by the fun. Could we have some more of that, and less of the other stuff? But I think
yes.
it's it is true because we all go through hard things. I was just reading this book and he says, he's never met a person, if he's really sat down and talked to them, that hasn't had their share of sadness, whether it's,
Yes.
familial or societal or personal or, and
Yeah.
we all carry this sadness. And then what do we do with it? It's what do you do? It's not whether it happened, it's then what do you do with what happened? That is, I think, the defining way. It defines who we are. I think what we do with those
Yeah.
challenges.
And I wouldn't even just say sadness. I mean, like, yes, like as
True.
if you're living, you're going to experience grief and you'll have to learn how to carry it.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, sometimes it's just hard things. Hard things can make you angry. Hard things can there's a lot of feelings that can come up with that kind of stuff. So I don't know.
Agreed.
It's just, the question of like how you move through that stuff and how you're able to carry the hard things.
Mm-hmm. So did you feel like when you were writing this poem that anything came up that you were surprised by, or did it just sort of follow a trajectory you imagined it might follow, or what was your experience?
I wasn't,
Did you commune with
sure.
some goddesses? Like, what was the process?
No,
Like,
I didn't.
I was sort of like expecting a little more of that, to be honest. Like, oh, okay, this
I
is.
know. Well, so, like, I, I'm, I would generally say like I'm pretty like a pretty bubbly person. And you're like, and I'm pretty smiley. Like,
Mhm,
you could almost use the word jolly when you meet me, but like
mhm,
I can get pretty dark.
mhm.
my my feed, it's kind of like got that vibe going. And I was like reading some of the lines, and I was like, wow, this is sort of like that's not like serious like goth stuff, but if you're just gonna talk with me and be like, oh really? Like, I don't know. So I guess like I was kind of surprised and like trying not to like have this screen and like make it look change the light or whatever. Um, I I guess I was kind of surprised by how dark and restrictive it
Mm.
felt, but it shouldn't be because it's like that's real. um, my parents are both ordained ministers.
Oh, okay.
They're retired. So, um, and so growing up in a political family, like you think politics only applies to people who are like the children of politicians and the families of politicians, but really any public figure,
Mhm,
there's some politicalness with that, and that can be a really big weight. Um,
mm,
and I don't think a lot of people think about how those kinds of things play for children and families of ministers and pastors and clergy. Um, I kind of think it's maybe in some ways harder
mhm.
because it's not just like leadership, it's moral leadership,
Right.
and it's being present in the community, and it's sitting and holding space with the community, and to some degree those kinds of things are expected of the family as well.
Mhm.
And with a family like mine where both my parents are shouldering those mantles, and it's not just my parents, it's a family business. Like I have other relatives who are also in the ministry, several generations like throughout the family tree, both sides of my family. It's either that or you go into business. Like that's like what happens. um so that's a lot of pressure, it's a lot of weight to carry. And uh there's a lot of connection to the word, and the power of words. And so I think like all of those kinds of things kind of come together in that. And I wasn't, I mean, when I sat down to write it, I was like, I have no idea where this is going to go.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like going through the things. I'm like,
Mm-hmm. I think that's the fun of a prompt, is that
yeah,
you can sort of just sit down and just let it lead you, you know, where most of the time if I'm writing, I might have an idea of what I'm going to say, you know, that's why I'm sitting down to write. But that's, I think, can be liberating about the prompt. And it's so interesting to hear that about your parents, because you talk a lot about faith and spirituality on your Instagram. And I find it interesting because you exist in a space where you're not like an influencer. You know, you're not doing like the believe the positive thoughts and you can create it. You know, you're really talking about the reality of living in a world where you believe there's something greater. You know, what that feels like. And I think that's a really difficult conversation for most people to have. So to me, it makes sense that you have this grounding in people who do talk about these things from a different point of view, but you've had that behavior modeled for you, you know.
Yeah.
So I that makes a lot of sense, actually, because
yeah,
I think I feel like you're really brave. You take your space and you talk about this stuff, and a lot of people are just really, it's difficult. It's difficult stuff to talk about.
it is. Well, and my family's always joked that like the two things that people don't talk about at dinner, we always did.
Right.
And that was religion and politics. And so it's like, how can you talk about life and not talk about these topics? Like that's, they permeate every part of life. If you're really talking about spirituality, or you're really talking about life. And if your spirituality is not influencing your life, then it's not really spiritual.
It's more performative
thing to say, but
it's more of a performance than a way of being. Yeah, that was something I got into a lot with actually people I knew who were Christian when I was younger, because I was like, but you're not living the things that you talk about. It's really frustrating. You know, I'm actually living them more than you. But I don't like believe in Jesus and heaven and hell and sin. So, and they would just ignore me. But, you know, I think that can be true of any religion or belief system.
Totally.
I just had that experience with those people in high school. So did you talk about politics and religion, and were you in sort of agreement, or did you manage to have conversations with people who you didn't agree with?
When?
Like ever. I think most of the times I'm happy to talk about politics with people that I'm in the region of agreeing with, or religion where, you know, but it's difficult for me to talk with someone who I'm completely diametrically opposed from. You know, I mean, it's just like, no.
Yeah. So I feel that. I have actually my bachelor's is in peace and conflict studies. And
so you can give me some tips.
I have done a lot of work and a lot of training, even from like early teen years through into adulthood, in conflict resolution and communication styles and things. And so having civil conversations with people has never been a problem for me.
Mm-hmm. I can have a civil conversation, but I don't feel like it's very enlightening. You know, like it's civil. I can hear them and they can hear me, but I don't feel like it's like, I mean, you know, certain people you just don't have any real common ground to talk about in those areas.
Yes. So like the difference is when you have someone you're talking to and they don't see you as a person, that's the line for me. I can't have a conversation if someone sees a woman as a second-class citizen. I can't have a conversation with someone who sees a psychic as not legitimate. I can't have a conversation with a person who sees queer people as not legitimate. Like, if you can't see me as a human being, then we cannot have a conversation because we can't have any common ground.
Mm-hmm.
If, however, you see me as a human being, then we're good. We can
Mm-hmm.
chat about anything, and I can
Mm-hmm.
disagree with you about stuff because we can come to some kind of conversation and have a discussion, not a debate. You
Right.
know, it's all
Right.
about framing things. So as long as we can come together as two human beings, see each other as human beings, and then we can have like, okay, yes, you disagree about these things, but like maybe we do have some common ground here. But the moment that I lose my humanity in someone's eyes, that's it. We can't have a conversation because we're not seeing each other as equal.
Mm-hmm.
So that has been really hard recently, in the last few years where people have become very hard. They've made very hard lines about things. They've attached themselves to certain perspectives and kind of had an escalation of commitment. That's the phrase that we
Mm-hmm.
would use in conflict res.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they you can't have a conversation, and that's what makes it so difficult. I have done some work to like if I have a troll or somebody that comes at me,
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
can do like a Sarah Silverman move
Mm-hmm.
where I'm like, okay, like let's just transform this conversation and get it so that like you can see like, hey, let's be like
Mm-hmm.
gentle with one another and like be cool. Like everybody can be cool, okay? Like there's no reason for me to attack you. Like there's just no reason.
Mm-hmm.
um, so I have done that, especially when there's been something that's been more contentious. But I just don't have time for things when it's like a fundamental thing,
Right.
when there's someone who can't accept the possibility that they might be wrong. I
Yeah.
like I'm a pretty open-minded person.
Mm-hmm.
Um, actually, I'm not claiming that and then
Mm-hmm.
not really being it. I'm legitimately open-minded. So I will listen to someone and then I will compare, what they're saying to me with like my previously held views or whatever, and I'll think about it. And I'll sit with it. Like if something makes me uncomfortable, I'll be like, okay, why am I uncomfortable with this idea? Um, is there something that I need to reassess? Like, am I wrong here? Like, or
Mm-hmm.
is there something that I didn't know that I need to learn about? So like I will sit with that kind of stuff, but I may still come to the same conclusions I had before. I can't promise that I'll like
Right.
agree with the other person. So I don't know. I mean, I think there's room, but it's gotten really hard, and that's a sadness.
For
Um,
sure.
I
I
feel
agree.
I feel a real sadness about that, and I think a lot of it has to do with um, that in group out group stuff, and getting really attached to certain ideologies and identities that go with those ideologies, and that's like it's rough, man. I don't know. I don't like it.
It is rough. Um, and I feel like, some of it comes from my unwillingness and other people's unwillingness to be quiet about certain things anymore, and sort of go along to get along. It's like, which has been going on for decades, but now it's like, oh, I have become sort of zero tolerance about certain things. It's like, I can't engage in this conversation. It's not useful.
Yeah,
And
that's
it's hurtful, in fact, not just to me, but to others. So,
yeah.
um, it's,
Yeah, exactly that face.
yeah, yeah, I don't love it, but I also don't want to endorse things people are saying by acting as if it's not problematic,
Yeah,
So,
totally.
uh, anything else? We're at about 20 minutes, so we probably want to wrap it up. Any other? I appreciate. What did you say that I like the phrase that you talk about in conflict resolution? Committed.
Escalation of commitment.
Oh, I like that. That's really useful because I mean,
It's
you really see that
so,
happening. We're like, oh, wow, okay. It's like this now, like
yeah.
now we're at 10. We were at
Yep.
5 2 days
Yep.
ago.
Yep.
Okay. Escalation. Anyway, that's my escalation of commitment. I'm
That's your
taking that.
takeaway from today.
Yeah, I'm definitely taking that. And your beautiful poem. And that your parents are minister. I feel like I learned like, oh, okay, and it's also just lovely to talk with you because your social media is very formidable, and it's like you're
Is
this
it?
giggly,
I
person.
know.
I had no idea. Not that there's anything wrong with being formidable, by the way.
No, you know what?
Um,
I so when I will just say this because I know we only have like a little bit more time, but um in my spiritual work, can I swear here? Is it okay for me to swear here?
sure, I don't care.
Okay, I don't know.
No,
Some
it's
people
nice to
have
ask. Some
feelings.
people really it
Okay,
bothers them.
I feel well. I don't even know if this. I'll like tone it down a little bit. I'll just say I am a badass.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
okay. When it comes to spiritual stuff, I really I I feel incredibly powerful in that
Mm-hmm.
space.
Mm-hmm.
And when I'm working in spirit, I feel incredibly powerful in that space. So when someone comes to me for that work, they need to know that that's what they're getting. Like, I mean, like we'll sit together, if I'm gonna work with a client or something, we'll sit together, it'll be like we're friends, we're having tea, whatever, it's chill, and it's cool. But like when it comes to dealing with spirit stuff, like it's
Mm-hmm.
legit. Like
Mm-hmm.
I come hard.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what you want. I mean, that's what
Yeah.
I want. You don't want, I mean, you don't
No.
talk about spiritual matters necessarily to get a warm hug. That is
No.
not,
I mean, like I can offer that sort of
yes, yes, but,
like
get a
that's
puppy for that.
definitely yes. I mean, you. I would say that like I am very affirming,
Yeah.
but I also do the tough love bit.
Mm-hmm. I think
So
that's important.
it is. It
Yeah.
is. So you get, yeah. So I
I
think
mean,
that's why I don't know,
yeah.
no, like October rolled in and I was like dark. But
Yes.
probably when summer and spring comes
Okay.
up, I'll be like,
Okay. Okay. So summer solstice, I'm expecting some real, like,
yeah, probably, yeah.
joyful goddess energy. Okay.
Yeah, I'll be all brigade or something. I don't know.
Okay. Well, any other? I think that's a good
That's a
place
good
to go
spot.
out on.
We'll call it.
It was a pleasure. Thank you so much
Yeah.
for sharing your poem, Alexis, and chatting with me. I really appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me.
Okay. Bye, everyone.